Paul?
I don't know who Paul is.
You don't know who Paul is?
No. Well, I know he is in the Bible, but I
Okay,
never read the Bible, so
fair enough. He's an apostle of Jesus, a messenger that Jesus
yeah.
sent out to help spread his gospel across the world, specifically more so to non-Jewish lands and non-Jewish people, what the Bible
Okay.
calls Gentiles. And usually Muslims have a problem with. You never heard Muslims bring up Paul and or nothing like that in a
No,
bad or negative way?
no.
Interesting. Okay. Tell me what do you know about Christianity?
Uh, Nothing. Maybe it's just that you believe in the Trinity.
Okay. What do you think the Trinity is?
I don't know. I
Okay.
never understand
How long have you been a Muslim?
since birth.
Okay. So been a Muslim all your life. Is
Yes.
that would that be the main reason why you're a Muslim is because you grew up in a Muslim household and was raised on the Quran and Hadith and the Sunnah and stuff?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And you said you never read the Bible before. Why not?
Well, I don't know, but right now, I've decided to do it since since I've been watching your videos.
Oh wow.
Um, I started in December of
Mm-hmm.
2023,
Mm-hmm.
and it's when I discovered Islam for real. Because I was born Muslim, but I'm not Arab,
Mm-hmm.
so I never really learned anything like any hadith.
Right.
But we practiced, so yeah.
Okay. So wow. I mean, that's amazing to hear. So you've been watching the videos and that got you interested into doing your own research. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me what have has it there been anything interesting that stood out to you, I guess, about Islam that you've come to learn? You've watched some of my videos and then you started like looking up stuff. And you said that this is where
Mhm.
you've seen the real Islam. What do you mean by that? By the real Islam?
Well, I mean, me personally, what I knew as a child, it was to pray and be good to people. That's it. But
Hmm.
I didn't know what the scriptures say.
Hmm.
So the first thing I learned was about Aisha's
Ah,
age.
yeah,
So I was really shocked, of
yeah,
course.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I I've I've tried to stay on the religion.
Hmm.
So like, I guess taking what the Muslim says to not leave Islam because it's difficult to leave Islam.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Leaving Islam, it seems like you may have a lot to lose, right? You got family, you have community, and
Yeah.
if you were to leave Islam, like even your life could be in danger, or you can lose your family. And so it's hard, right? It's hard.
Well, yeah.
But there's assurance, and you'll find this out when you continue to read the Bible. Jesus gives us an assurance um, when you come into belief in Him, and He says that even mothers will turn their backs on their daughters, fathers will turn their backs on their sons, brother will be against brother because of the truth of Jesus, the Messiah. It's because of this that it'll divide people, because truth
Yeah.
divides light from darkness, and
Hmm.
Jesus promises that in the midst of that, yes, you'll go through that. Yes, you'll go through trouble, but He'll be there with you. You won't be alone. And not only that, but you'll also have a family of believers that pray for you, root for you, support you, and stuff like that. Um, so I want to know what do you think about, Muhammad and Aisha? Obviously him being 54, him sleeping with her when she was 9 years old. I know that wasn't easy to see. Huh?
Yeah, but it wasn't easy, but a lot of people say maybe she was 18. Even though since I saw like your videos, I know that she was definitely nine
Exactly.
years old.
Exactly.
But then they said that, it was different back then, and the age, the psychological part,
Yeah, they
it's
try
not
to
the
say
same.
they try to say that back then girls maybe matured faster than they do now, and so Aisha, even though she was 9, she would have been more mature, which is an absolute lie. Actually, we have evidence that people are maturing nowadays faster than they matured back then. It's so
Yeah,
ridiculous. There's no way out of it. They can come up, they try their best, GT. They try their best to come up with an excuse to defend that. But there's no defense of that. You can't defend pedophilia. You can't defend it, you know?
true.
So, let me ask you this. And you're being honest. Do you believe that a prophet of God would do such a thing? That a prophet of God would, you know, kind of use his position to his advantage and, you know, get with a little girl? You think a prophet of God would do that?
No, 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 I don't think that. But I mean, didn't like also people of Christianity did that?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
Let me show you what the Bible. Let me actually
Yeah.
show you what the Bible says on this. That's actually. I'm glad you
Okay.
asked that. Let me show you exactly what the Bible says on this particular issue, because the Bible's pretty clear on how men and young women are
Mm.
supposed to, get together and win. So this is what the Bible says. Let me go to. It's going to be First Corinthians. It's actually one of the letters of Paul. One of the
Oh,
messengers of
okay.
Jesus. It's a letter of
Mm.
Paul that we're talking about. So this is what it says here. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and share the screen. All right. So it's on the screen now. So this is First Corinthians chapter 7, verse
Mm.
36. It says, "But if any man thinks he is behaving improperly toward his virgin," right? So obviously a man receives a virgin for marriage. It says, "If she is past the flower of youth, and thus it must be so, it must be, let him do what
Yeah.
he wishes. He does not sin. Let them marry." So the
Okay.
Bible is clear. The virgin has to be past the flower of her youth. She has to be past that. She has to be mature, right? Both physically and mentally. She has to be past her youth. She has to be a young woman for them to be married. It must be so.
But what's a young woman?
So one who is physically and mentally mature. So she's physically grown up, she's physically developed, and mentally she's developed. She understands what marriage is. She understands what sexual intercourse is. She understands what she's getting into. She's a young woman,
Okay.
you know.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so that's what that means. So the Bible is pretty clear. Now, it doesn't give a specific age per se, but it gives a generality. She has to be physically and mentally mature. She has to be past her youth, right? She can no longer be a youth for, you to be marrying her. It must be so. While in Islam, obviously, you're allowed to, have relations with girls who have not even hit puberty yet. So,
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I saw the video where when you showed the verse,
Mm-hmm.
but no,
But
yeah,
what, sister?
there's no but.
I agree. There is no but. There is no excuse for any of this, you know?
Yeah,
And it's especially this is where it's like really serious. The fact that it's not Christians or people who hate Islam that like is showing this stuff. The Muslim scholars themselves made it so clear that yes, this is permissible. They made it clear. No one can dispute
yeah.
it, you know?
I saw the videos, the one that said like 11-month old, you can marry a makes no sense.
Yeah, but that's Islam. And that's what Muhammad says is revelation from Allah, from God on high. Now, I don't know about you, GT, but I know good and well that that is not a teaching from God. I know
I mean, maybe it is, and we don't know.
that. There's no way. There's no way. Because we're talking about God here, GT. God is
Yeah,
morally perfect. He's morally perfect. He is all good. He cannot teach a foul, disgusting teaching. He cannot give a disgusting, sinful command. We know that this is disgusting. We know that this is sinful. And why do we know this? Because we are made in the image of the true God. The true God has given us his moral compass to where we don't even need a book to tell us that this is disgusting and that this is wrong. We know this naturally because the true God has given us this judgment, this moral compass within us. You know, this is what in Islam you guys will call it the fitra, your natural disposition.
yeah.
So this is how we can tell. This is one of the ways we can tell the true God from a false God, from a counterfeit, right? Because God has given us his character. We have remnants and little seasonings of his character within us that we can have an idea of what's not him. That's how when we read this stuff in the Quran and the Hadith, we know that this is not of God. It can't be.
But
Especially when we
the problem,
go ahead, GT.
mhm,
Go ahead.
yeah, the problem is that, for example, I was speaking like with an atheist earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and he was, well, I don't know nothing about the Bible, but he was talking about a situation where it was, I think, David and his wife, I don't know the name, and so they had relations before marriage, and so God, I guess, killed the child to punish them. So he was saying like, isn't that just evil? So, well, yeah, I mean,
Well, absolutely not. But this is what you have is where a consequence happens. See, here's a lot of things that
that's what.
people don't don't get. People don't, and especially an atheist, I can't believe that he would even try to say something is evil when he says God doesn't exist. So evil would be like he's stealing from God to know what evil is, but then using it to argue against God. As an atheist, he can't say anything is good or evil. That's just an illusion. But just to answer the objection here, as
Mhm.
you see how God works, God judges by responsibility, right? Responsibility, not really accountability, responsibility. So, for example, you have um, where nations would sin against God, right? Nations, their parents, like people would sin against God in a particular nation, leaders and all these kind of people, and because of that, the nation would suffer, right? The curses of God, the punishments of God, the wrath of God would fall on the nation itself when there's people among the nation who are responsible for the nation sin against God and rebel. They fall. So this happens
Right.
the same with kings. If a king falls, the people fall, right? The kingdom falls. If the king, the head of the, if the king falls, the kingdom falls, because that's the responsibility of the king. And that's how God judges. He judges by responsibility, not accountability. David here does something heinous. He commits not only just murder, but also adultery. And because of that, his fallen state, you know, his the result of that is him losing his kid due to a sickness. It says the child fell sick and God didn't spare the child, you know?
But God made the child sick.
Oh yeah, as a result of the sin, as a result of the sin
Yeah.
and the responsibility of David. The child gets sick as of God's judgment and wrath, and the child dies because of the sickness, you
Yeah.
know,
I'm going to show him this video.
of course. But like
Mm.
I would bring that atheist here to me. I would love to talk to that atheist about good and evil. I would love to have that conversation with him because he
Okay,
can't,
I'll
like
ask
I
him.
said, he can't say what good and evil is if there is no God. If there is no God, where is he getting this idea of what good is and what evil is? It's
Mm.
just
Yeah.
his opinion that he's making up, right?
Right.
So he's stealing morality from God,
Mm.
where God says there's good and there's evil. He steals that idea from God to argue against God. It makes no sense. So yeah, bring him here. I'll have a conversation with him. But
Okay.
that's but this is something, interesting to think about. Okay? God
Mm-hmm.
judges by responsibility, not accountability. For example, here's another way to think about it. The fall of Adam and Eve. Adam, God gave Adam
Mm-hmm.
responsibility of the earth, right? He gave that responsibility to Adam. And once Adam fell, he rebelled against God, ate the fruit. Adam fell. Then we see sin has entered the world, death has entered the world,
Mm-hmm.
and now human beings are born with the inclination, the desire to sin. It's now what we urge to do now. We rebel against God naturally. But this happened because our the person who was responsible over us fell. So because he fell, all of humanity is now in a fallen state because Adam had that responsibility, you know? So it's
Okay.
not we're not guilty of Adam. Adam's the one who ate the fruit. So I'm not guilty of Adam eating the fruit. I am now guilty for what I do, but I am now living in a system where I am now reaping the effect and the results of Adam's action.
Yes. Okay.
So it's similar to that.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is what we have here. Keep studying, sister. Keep
Mm.
reading the Bible. Um, do you own a Bible yourself? You have one, like a actual Bible?
No. No.
You just read it online?
No.
No,
I think I never I never read anything, I think.
you've
But
never you've never
uh,
opened it before.
no.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, let me show you a few things that's in it. I'm gonna show you just a few verses, and then I'm gonna encourage you. I'm gonna encourage you to get yourself a Bible. Maybe it might be
Yeah.
trouble to get yourself a physical Bible yourself, but you have your phone, you have your computer. You can just go
A
on
physical
Bible app.
Bible is I think it's easy to have.
Yeah, yeah, it's easy. It's easy to get.
Yeah.
Really easy.
But I did hear some Bible verse though verses.
Oh, you've heard somebody.
Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. I mean, the one
Yeah,
everybody knows.
that's yeah, that's a popular one. But
But
that's
I
that's actually an
I
important one
would
to
like
know.
to yeah. But I would like to know, like, why do you think that Muslims dislike Paul? Because I did do some research,
Yeah.
but I don't understand. Like, is it because Muslims says that we don't have the Injil?
Boom, you got it. So
Oh,
their
okay.
their problem is that the Quran says that it confirms the Injil and the Torah, right? That's the
Yes.
Bible. That's what we have, the Bible. So in the
Mhm.
Bible, we have the Torah, we have the Injil, we have the Gospel, we have all the writings of the prophets. So
Yeah.
here's the problem. The Quran says over and over and over and over again, repeatedly, that it came confirming the Torah and the gospel and that which the Jews and Christians possess, what they have in their hands.
Yes.
However, when we go into the Bible, when we read the Torah, we read the Injil, the gospel, we actually see that the Quran actually contradicts what the Torah says. It contradicts what the Injil says. So that would mean that the Quran is actually false because it's saying that these books are true while at the same time contradicting them. So the Quran would be false. So how do
But
Muslims?
then, but then, so if I try to, uh, stay Muslim, I'd say like that we don't know where the real Injil is, and so the one that you have is not the real one because
Uh-huh.
it was corrupted. But I do not believe that it was corrupted because there is no evidence. So yeah, I can't take
Yeah.
this take.
There's no evidence of any corruption, nor does the Quran say that they were corrupted. So, as a
Yeah.
Muslim, to say that the Injil was corrupted, they will be going against the Quran. That's number one. In many ways, here's one
Mhm.
way: the Injil is the revelation of Allah. The Quran says that over and over, right?
Yeah.
Well, the Quran also says that no one can change the words of Allah. That's Surah Anam, chapter 6, verse
Mhm.
115. None can change the words of Allah. So if
Right.
they're saying that the Injil was changed, was distorted, that means that
Mhm.
people actually were able to change the words of Allah, which goes against the Quran. So is Allah telling the truth that no one can change his words, or is he lying? You know? So that's
Mhm.
problem number one. Problem number two is that the Quran never says that they've been corrupted. The Quran over and over again, matter of fact, it doesn't just say that it confirms the Torah and the Injil. It says that the
Mhm.
Injil is in their hands, that they have it, that they have to read it,
Mhm.
that they can recite it, that they have to live by it and observe it. So they have it. It's
Mhm.
not lost. They have it.
Yes.
So to say
Okay.
that it's been lost would
Mhm.
also be going against the Quran. You know,
We cannot win.
can't win. It's what we call the Islamic dilemma. It's a true dilemma. It's tough. There's no way out of
And
it.
like, can you bring a Muslim to see what he says?
Yeah, sure, of course. You want to watch this?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Let's see. Let's see what we got. All right. Isa, the black telect. Isa, you there? Can you hear us? Isa, you said that you're here.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Brilliant. How you doing, brother? It's been a long time. You probably don't remember me.
Sorry, my apologies if I don't.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, go ahead. What was the main question or something?
So we have a sister here who wants to know how a Muslim would respond to um, the points that we're making about how the Quran never says that the Torah and Gospel are corrupted.
Okay, so basically, what the Quran is saying is this: that the actual Torah revealed to Moses and the Injil revealed to Isa, they were not corrupted. What it does
Hmm.
say is people wrote with their own hands, then said, "This is from Allah." They didn't just say this is the Torah or this is the Injil. They wrote all these apocryphal texts and load of other different texts claiming they're words of God. Now, we agree that some of these texts are apocryphal. There's some we both agree are apocryphal, but we're going further and saying, well, even the ones which you call the Gospels, within them are the true words of Isa and Allah, if you want to say Isa's quoting Allah. But then there's also bits and pieces that they've wrote with their own hands, so to speak, and they still claim it's inspired word of God. So, I mean, you're all are saying the same thing when you say it's from the Holy Spirit or they're inspired, but it's not the literal words of God. So you're basically doing this, you're agreeing with what the Quran says.
Okay. So it sounds like you're saying the actual Torah and the Injil were not corrupted. So they weren't corrupted. They're not lost. But people have made up books themselves that they claim is from God.
Yes.
So, okay, got you. Which are apocryphal books, the Talmud, you'll say, stuff not written by prophets, right?
Not just that, like you got extra. If you look in some of the lists, there's like Gospels of Mary and Gospels of Thomas and Gospels of Nicodemus.
Those are all been rejected by the church.
No, that's but they're called apocrypha, correct?
No, those are called Gnostics. Those are Gnostic writings.
But they still come under the term apocrypha.
No, those are Gnostic writings. The apocryphal writings are, that's stuff before Jesus's time.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you get that from?
The books that you're talking about, apocryphal books, those are like writings that so there's a big gap between like Malachi and the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
And so these books,
I think
these apocryphal books are written in between that time and stuff like that.
I think what you're thinking of the term is what was termed apocrypha from a perspective. Mm-mm. But those books also are, do you know what apocrypha means, brother?
Like hidden or stuff like that. It has different meanings.
No, it's more to do with what they call, well, they're saying it's doubtful.
No.
It's not, it's the opposite of what they call divine.
No, it's not, bro. That's not what it means. Apocryphal means hidden. So look, the apocryphal are before Jesus. That's before Jesus' time. The Gnostics are writings that people tried to claim as gospels. From Gnostic sects try to claim, put people's names on these gospels that are late and were not even alive when these things were written. So those are Gnostics, Gnostic gospels.
Brother, you know what? You only have to do a simple Google search. The New Testament apocryphal books, and you'll see exactly what I said. So that's a very simple one.
Okay. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Okay. So these are fake books that people wrote themselves, claim that's from God. And I would agree with you that these Gnostic texts are false texts, and even the church agreed with you. That's why they were never included in the canon. That's why they were never included in the New Testament, because of these Gnostic writings. They were never included. Even the church would agree with you that people wrote stuff with their own hands and claimed it was from God, and even tried to put apostles' names on there, or disciples of Jesus, their names on them, or Mary, people of prominence, to try to get credit for them.
Brilliant.
And they failed. So then what we have here is we're left with what we have as the gospel that has always been for 2,000 years accepted by the church and to all of church history and tradition. And we also have the Torah that has always been Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and the Tanakh, which are the writings of the prophets, the poetry books, and all that. So
the problem you're having is even where the gospels contradict each other, you would have to then accept, well, one, at least either they're all false in where they contradict, or one of them is telling the truth, and then the others are also wrong. So this is go on.
You're bringing up another argument now. So
No,
one,
no, no.
I
What? No, you missed. No, one sec. You missed that argument. What I said was we agree
heard
on
it.
certain apocryphal texts. Okay, so therefore we both agree people wrote with their own hands and said this was from God, and we both agree those are not from God. However, within the Gospels, we agree on some bits and disagree on some bits. Whereas
Right.
you might say all the four Gospels are all authentic. We're saying parts of it are authentic and parts of it are written.
Yeah. Where does the Quran say that they have part of the gospel?
It's saying they have. No, you're not getting it. They have the gospel. If you've got it there, but then you write other stuff on top of it, that's still your choice to do so, right?
Hold on, pause. We understood that according to the verse, number one, it's not even talking about the gospel because you're quoting 279. It's talking about the Jews, some people among the Jews that are doing stuff. So it's not even talking about the gospel or Christians or even Gnostic Christians. So, but even if we're putting this all into one idea here, we already agreed that the Torah and the gospel are untouched. No one's messed with them. No one has went into the gospel or went into the Torah and wrote over them, because that's not what the Quran says. People wrote fake books that they wrote themselves, these fake books, and claimed it was from God or in yada yada yada. So the gospel that we have, no one wrote over it. It's the Injil. It's the gospel.
But where are you getting that from?
All of church, 2,000 years of church history.
No. I'm saying from what I'm saying is no. From the Quranic perspective, you're superimposing your ideas of what it's saying.
No, I'm not.
Where it's saying, where it's saying that Isa had the Injil, and you have the Injil. Yes.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Where are you getting the idea that that's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John?
Well,
as the whole text, as opposed to the pieces in it.
Well, I got you. Yeah, good question. Why do I surmise that that's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Because that's what Christians had. That's always been what Christians have had. All throughout Christian history, the gospel has always been Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's always been that. Always.
No, brother, this is what I'm saying. As in the speech of Isa, because even Revelation has quote words that you would say are the quotations of Isa, correct? Or Jesus, correct? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So then you can also include Revelation. And I think part of Acts, is that correct? Is Acts got some speech of Jesus too?
Yep.
Okay. So it's not just the four Gospels. So wherever Jesus is speaking... No, but he didn't speak in Paul and so on. But I'm talking about, red letter, the speech, right?
Okay.
So wherever you're having, so for instance, the words of Isa, if you add to it and say this is also Isa's words and it's not, you've still got Isa's words, but you've added to it.
No, if you
understand,
if you add to his words, you don't have them. You mixed them up, which the Quran doesn't say happened. The Quran never says that Jesus's words were mixed up.
What do you mean the Quran doesn't say that?
The Quran never says that people mixed falsehood in the Injil, that people wrote in the Injil, in the gospel, and put fake words in there. The Quran never says this.
But where does it say anything about the writing of the Injil? What I'm saying, whether they spoke it or wrote it down.
Do you believe the gospel was written down, the Injil? You believe it was written?
Yes, I do. But we're talking about what was given to Isa is the point. So when people are giving their own commentary, I mean, even today, people have to give their commentary to explain it to people that don't understand it. What I'm saying is what we know they were teaching is contradictory even within the Gospels themselves. So they're contradicting each other.
But that's fine that you can claim that. That's not true. You can claim that. But a contradiction does not entail distortion, right?
Of course it does. Because if you're saying...
Brother, stop. For example, I have a book right here. I have a book right here. It has its editor. It has its author. Okay? I have this book. If this book contained a contradiction, does this mean that this book has been distorted? Like it's not the real book? It's not the real church history book by Bruce Shelley? Or does it just mean that Bruce Shelley has a contradiction in his book?
No. What it means is when you're comparing 4 books that claim to be writing historical events of what happened and what was said, if they contradict, then that's an issue. So just saying a book by somebody is random.
And we're not talking about
contradictions.
We're not talking about that. Again, you're changing the argument. You change the argument from distortion to now contradictions. So we're not talking about contradictions right now. We can get into that later. We're talking about whether or not it was distorted in the first place. Okay?
Right.
If this
what I'm saying is,
if it contains a contradiction, does that necessitate that it's been distorted?
If 2 books or more contradict each other, yes. If they are referring to historical, that's just obvious. I mean, come on. If 2 people,
do you know what a distortion is?
Yes, I do.
For
instance, here's the original fact.
How would you describe?
I'm going to tell you now. Distortion is, here's the original facts. It says, for instance, a story in which the Messiah was, let's say, placed on the cross, and somebody has got that factual, or all 4 have got that factual, but then one of them puts on there that the Messiah said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Others don't record that, and others may even say that's not even true. That there, adding that to it, is a distortion of the truth.
Okay, what can you? So for example, that's not a contradiction. That's not a distortion.
No, you said distortion. I'm saying a distortion of the facts.
Distortion. A distortion is so now, guys. Again, we have gone from corruption of a text to texts contradicting each other. That's now what we're going into now. So now I guess we can understand that the Quran is clear that the gospel and the Torah are not corrupted. Can we agree there that the Quran is clear? It's not corrupted? Because once we concede there, I have no problem going to the contradiction part. Can we concede that the Quran is clear that the Torah and gospel are uncorrupted? They have not been changed by people.
You asking me that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the original Torah that was given to Moses, the word of Allah given to Moses, the word of Allah given to Isa, they can never be corrupted.
Okay.
However,
did the Christians have it? And the Jews, did they have it?
Yes.
In fact, you know what? Oh, they had it. Nice. So they had in the 7th century, the Jews and the Christians had the Torah and the gospel that was revealed to the prophets. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you know what the Christians had, what they called the gospel in the 7th century?
What they called the Injil or the gospel? What do you mean? Because you're flipping from the Quranic words to the Christian words. So are we talking the same thing with the Injil and the gospel?
Injil is gospel. Injil is gospel. That's what the word is.
Right, but it says in the Bible, example, Jesus went.
You know what? Please, let's not. Come on, brother.
No, bro. Because it's what I'm saying is very important.
You know what the Injil is. You know it's gospel.
No. That's what I'm saying.
So you're saying that the Injil is not gospel.
What, brother? One sec. When it says brother, I heard your question. I'm going to answer it with what I was about to say. You're going to understand exactly what I'm saying with these words. In the Bible itself, Jesus said, it says he went over here and preached the gospel. So if we said he went over,
does the Injil mean gospel, bro?
One sec. So I'm just about to say it. I'm about to say that, brother. I'm about to say it. So he went over there. Yes. Yes. So he went over here and preached the Injil.
Now I'm going to move with my point. So Injil means gospel. Do you know what the Christians had, what they called the gospel or Injil in the 7th century?
As in well, it depends which group you're talking about, because there were different groups, right? That had apocryphal books, right? So it depends. But let's go with the Catholics. The Catholics had your 4 gospels that were there. No problem.
Take care of yourself. You can't even be honest here. So
I told you the truth.
All right. Thanks for coming. Unfortunately, GT, I'm trying to get an honest conversation out of these people, but they keep playing games. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let me see if I
I
can get
didn't.
somebody who's honest here.